Hello everyone, this is Brian Ka with another episode of How You Can Pass the California Baby Bar. So in my previous videos, I tried to run you through what I personally did, including failures, and what I did after 10 years of taking a break from law studies and coming back to actually passing the test so that now I am in my second year of law school, and it's already been about 3-4 months since my second year has started, and I'm taking both community property and child advocacy, and I'm doing pretty well in both classes. So I thought that for some people who may be in the same position that I was in, which was not having enough money to hire a tutor, or just being completely lost and not knowing where to start or how to approach your first year of law school and eventually trying to pass this baby bar. So again, I'm just here to try to give you guidance on what you should do. Of course, this is just my opinion, but it worked out for me because I eventually passed the baby bar. So, what you should do to actually pass this exam. And I've talked about this numerous times before in my previous videos, that this test is not an easy test. And I'm not here to scare you, I'm not here to make it harder for you, or totally psych you out into thinking that this is something that's not beatable. Because as you can see, I'm here, I've progressed after after 10 years of taking a break, and I've studied for about a year, just preparing every day and practicing every day, and I eventually passed. So this is something that you can also do, but it'll take a lot of studying, a lot of sacrifices, and a lot of memorization of the black letter law. So in this video, I want to focus on what commercial outlines are the best and what commercial outlines are not the best. I think that this is a very subjective interpretation, because what may work for you may not work for me, and vice versa. You may find some commercial outlines that may help you, and it may be easier for you to understand how it's written. But at the same time, I may not think that it's easy for me to understand. So I believe that in the end, you should try to go through several commercial outlines and see what works for you. Because again, what may work for you may not work for me, and vice versa. So in front of me, I have some commercial outlines that were helpful, not only in helping me pass the baby bar, but also helping me get through my first year of law school. And if you've watched any of my previous videos, I've shared that I repeated first year 3 times. I did my first year at a brick and mortar school. After a year and 6 months into it, I was not able to qualify to continue my second year of law studies because they said I wasn't good enough. And then instead of giving up, I went to, or I transferred, actually, the right language is I started all over again at a distance, unaccredited law school, and I did 1 year there. And after my first year, at this new law school, they said that I wasn't good enough again. So it was sad and devastating because I just spent 2 years doing the same thing over and over again. Whereas other students in other schools finish law school in 3 years, whereas I was already into my second year, 2.5 years, and all the tuition that I burned, and I was told that I had to repeat another cycle. So it was either give up everything, find another thing to do, or try again the third time. So on my third try, I repeated another year. So this is my third year, 3.5 years of first year only. And I was finally eligible to take the baby bar. And I took the first baby bar on my first try around 10 years ago. That was when we had to do both writing 4 essays and 100 MBE questions. And the result was that my essays were okay. I had 65 on 3 essays, 16 on 1, which wasn't great, but my MBE score wasn't good enough. I had like 50%, so obviously that wasn't a pass. So I had to stop. And at that time, I had a lot of things going on in my life, just a lot of hardship. So I couldn't afford to do another year at the time. I didn't have the finances available. I didn't have the time. My mind wasn't right. But I always carried the test scores and the tests that I received from the state bar. And for 10 years, I looked at that every day. And I knew that one day that I'd be coming back to try this again. And last year, around, I believe it was October, I realized that now may be the time to do it again. So after 10 years, I decided to study for about a year and then take the June 2024 baby bar exam, and I eventually passed. And those of you who have passed the regular baby bar exam may look at me and say, I passed the regular bar exam. What are you to, talk about the baby bar? But everyone's different, and everyone's journey is different. Some people are just fast learners. They may have attorneys near them, or English is their first language. But for me, I didn't have any of that. And, looking back, if I had somebody like myself, coaching on how to study for the test or how to approach my first year of law school, I don't think that I would have suffered so much as a result of just not knowing. I don't think that the issue was whether or not I was, smart enough to pass the first year. The issue actually was whether I knew how to study for the baby bar exam, or how to study for these tests given in your first year of law school. So without further ado, let me just show you some of these commercial outlines that I've worked with, and tell you the pros and cons, and end this video with what I did with the ones that I felt like were a good fit for me, and hopefully you can take my information and again again, what may work for me may not work for you. So you may want to try everything, and then make a informed decision yourself in the end, so that you can get over this hurdle of passing the baby bar. And if you're struggling to pass your first year of law school, just like me, then hopefully this will bring a lot of value to you as well. So the first baby bar commercial outline that I want to show you is this right here. It's called Baby Bar Kit Value Bar Prep. The first page says CaliforniaBarHelp.com, and let's see. And it just has some information on how to visit their website. But to make this long story short, in regards to this particular commercial outline, is this didn't work out for me. And the reason is the format that this book was written is kind of like this. And the first row has like different issues that you may be tested on. And it has the rule. It says, and then it has arguments. And then it has the conclusion and comment. And every page is designed like that. Same format. But the issue that this book writes about doesn't really have any bearing or relationship to the subjects or subject matters that you'll be tested on. So here, let me just read you this one section here. It says issue. It says here, the issue: no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. Now, I've studied for criminal law over and over and over again, and there were no questions or either in MBEs or essay portion testing you or me about the Constitution. So here, like, it'll say Fifth Amendment. I just pulled that out. Like, another one here is the Miranda rule, and this is more of a criminal procedure thing, and the baby bar doesn't test you on criminal procedure. They test you on criminal law, and they just want you to know, like, some basic crimes and defenses, but they don't really go into the procedural part. Like, I think I saw like one or two questions in my practice MBEs, and they tested it like, years ago. And that's like one out of like 15 years in which you'll find that there was a criminal procedural question. So this book, in my opinion, again, this is an opinion, I don't want the publisher to get mad at me. So, but it seems very irrelevant, and they're talking about a lot of cruel and unusual punishment. We don't get tested on that for the baby bar. Right to counsel, that's a lot of that is like more second year, third year, and fourth year subject. So, in my honest opinion, I would avoid this book because I bought it from Amazon, I think, and At the time, like, I didn't know anything. Like today, I was looking at my community property textbook from like 10 years ago, which I purchased from the brick and mortar law school that I used to go to. And interestingly enough, I saw a receipt, and that receipt was $180. It was like 160 something plus tax, so it was like $180. And I would never spend that much on a textbook now, because I usually go with used textbooks, and used textbooks usually cost like 1/4 or 1/5 of the original new textbooks. So I think that information is power in this case. And if you don't know, then you're just gonna make mistakes like me. Spend 5 times more than what you could spend possibly. And if you don't know, maybe you're gonna stick with this book and study second year, third year, and fourth year subjects, and that's not gonna help you at all. So that's that. But if you want to try again, that's totally up to you. Again, this is called Baby Bar Kit Value Bar Prep. All right. All right. So moving on. This is another commercial outline. It's called California Bar Tutors. 2013 California Baby Bar Exam Outlines for First Year Law Students. Copyright California Bar Tutors, right? And let's see. This is what you're gonna see, California Bar Tutors. And let me just show you like a page. Look. I know it's like nasty and all, but this has been around me for about 10 years now. So, I spilled coffee and who knows what, food and everything. So it's a little nasty, but as you can see, I try to work with it. And looking back, this particular outline has obviously 3 subjects, and they are contracts, criminal law, and torts. And this was a very good outline for me. Now, I used like for certain subject like torts, I used outline number 1. For criminal law, I used outline number 2. Like this one, I used it for criminal law, and I think it's because it was like 5 or 6 pages, and the way they explained it was all divided into elements, meaning like if they talk about solicitation, it'll literally tell you like number 1 is this element, number 2 is this element, number 3 is this element, and number 4. So all you had to do was just memorize the elements. And another good thing about this book for me was that this outline did a very good job of going through all the defenses, because as you'll know, they really like to test you on defenses for criminal law, torts also, and obviously contracts. So let me take it back. They love to test you on defenses for all 3 subjects. And this particular outline does a very good job of just laying out everything that you need to know in order for you to pass the baby bar. And to be honest, I don't think that you would need another outline besides this, except I'm gonna talk about this later on, but Gilbert, I have Gilbert outline for every subject, and I think that Gilbert is something that you'll need no matter what. And I'm gonna explain that later. But this is definitely definitely one of the tools that I use, which helped me to pass the test. So this was definitely a go-go. I'm not sure if this particular outline is still available. You can check. Again, this is updated and revised for 2013. That's what, 11 years ago, and it's from California Bar Tutors. So if you can find the updated version from this company, I would say do it. I think that back in the days, I don't remember exact price, but it was definitely not in the 40s or 50s. If anything, it was probably like in the 30s or less. So a very good, affordable option, and you'll not be wasting any money if you end up sticking with this and studying for your exam with this particular outline. All right, so another one that I used is this one. It's called Nailing the Bar, and I used this like a horn book. I didn't use this for memorization because it's short, but compared to the other one, the one here, this one is definitely longer than that, because for torts we're talking almost 100 pages. So when this Nailing the Bar was helpful was when, like, if I didn't have a good grasp of a certain concept, or if I didn't understand something, like no matter how many times I went over it, I just needed somebody else to explain it to me in another way or another method. That's when this book came handy to me, because there were many things while I was working to understand all the concepts, and some were just like very difficult to understand, because learning the law is kind of like learning another language, and sometimes you need like another person to explain to you in a different way, because you just won't understand what the first person is saying. So you need the second person to explain the concept to you in a different manner, so that way you can have a better understanding, because you're now hearing it from two sides and they're both talking about the same thing, but the first person may make it a little bit more difficult, whereas the second person may just talk to you in a vernacular or like a really, street lingo, and that's what this one did for me. One thing that's what was good about this outline, Nailing the Bar, but there are some theories that were also difficult to understand from this book. So if I really didn't get it, I went to another outline to try to understand it from there. So this was a good book, but could you have passed without this Nailing the Bar outline? And I would say yes, as long as you can do your research on things that you just don't get, and if you could find a way to, fully understand concepts that are just so difficult for you, then this is something that may be helpful. But uh, if you ask me whether this is necessary to pass the baby bar, I will say no. All right. So that's the nailing the bar. That was for torts, and this one's for contracts and criminal law. So I'm not sure why they combined contracts and criminal law into this one thick book, and then they separated torts. I'm not sure why they did that, but you know, it was maybe they thought that this was a better way. Not sure why, but yeah, I also worked with these two books, and they were decent, and I'm not I don't have a problem with it. Now, this one book, it's called Baby Bar Exam Writing by Study Partner. And it says how to write an exam answer, 33 model answers, 16 graded bar answers, 113 practice exams. This company, I'm not talking about the book, but the Study Partner company, like they're pretty good because they have this thing called the ROM law, and it's kind of like the Black Dictionary, but a better version, meaning it's a lot easier to understand because they worded it a lot easier, and they have like a couple websites. One of them is casebriefsco.com, and once you register, I think it's like $12 per month. You can have access to all case briefs, and what else do they have? Oh, you have access to their dictionary, the ROM Law Dictionary, and like flashcards and like short questions to help you understand basic concepts. So this company is good. The problem is this particular book and the way they try to teach you how to write for the exam is they don't use the IRAC method. Like IRAC meaning issue, rule, analysis, and conclusion. And I believe that is the best way to write for your classes or even for the bar exam. But they teach you in a really like confusing manner when it comes to teaching you how to write. And like they don't separate the rule and the analysis. They kind of combine everything into one. So for me, this book was very confusing, and like they have a bunch of like problems. They'll have issues on one side, and they write the analysis on the right side without writing the rule. Like instead of writing the rule, they tell you to outline like certain words, and I've seen like bar answers that did this, some, but I personally think that this method of writing could confuse you even more, because that's what happened to me. So this book, Baby Bar Exam Writing, well, first of all, you won't have to learn how to write for the baby bars. So you definitely don't need it. But if you must get it, I don't recommend it because, again, it doesn't follow the traditional format of IRAC. And I'm sure you can still pass using this method. And I'm not, taking anything from them. They probably know a lot more than me. But at this point in my career as a student, I would avoid it because if you have learned how to write a certain way and all of a sudden somebody tries to tell you, hey, that's not the way to go, you should write it this way and don't use IRAC. And what you should do is combine rule and analysis and just write the issue and write rule and the analysis, underline like main theories or doctrines, and that is not a good way for me, at least. So you can try this if you want to see how other baby bar prep companies want you to write. But again, I'm not knocking them off on everything because they have really good customer service, first of all. And if you sign up for their monthly subscription to get all the case laws and user dictionary, they send you these weekly emails, and it's very helpful. What they tell you via their emails is what you may need in order for you to pass the baby bar or your first year of law school. And they tell you exactly what law schools do wrong and what you should listen to and what you shouldn't listen to. So they give you really good information. But in the end, this baby bar exam writing, I don't recommend it. All right? So from the same company, they have these outlines. And this is also like 12, 13 years old, and it's really nasty and groggy, as you can see. It's all like you can tell this has been through a lot, But they sell these outlines. It's called FYLSE law outlines, and they used to give out criminal law FYLSE outline for free, so that you can see what they do, and if you like it, you can purchase their contracts and torts. And they are still, I believe, like less than $15. That includes shipping. But one thing interesting about them is they don't give you digital version. And I've asked them, like, can you not email me? Mail me. Can you just send me a digital version of your outlines? And they said no, they can't. Now, these contracts, criminal law, and torts outline from FYLSE, they're excellent. And I gotta be honest with you, like, this is the one that I primarily use to study for the baby bar exam. And my hat off to them. They compiled a great contracts, torts, and criminal law outline, and it's very straightforward. The way it's organized is it goes in orders in which you should study for these subjects. Like when you first study for contracts, it's very confusing. But if you just follow the order in which the FYLSE outline organized everything, then you shouldn't have a problem studying for the baby bar and knowing the law, because the way they worded it also is they just did a great job. I gotta say one thing about them though is that I recently tried to go back to their company, and I purchased their community property outline. And you can purchase the outline itself, or you can just get their monthly subscription, and all these outlines will be available for you. But one thing about their community property outline was that it was really not that good. It was not an outline. Rather, it was just a bunch of paragraphs written, and it was like 20 pages long. So, gotta say that I was a little bit disappointed with their community property outlines. Maybe their constitutional law is different. So I ended up canceling the subscription because, I was so disappointed with their community property outline, and compared to their FYLSE contracts, torts and criminal law, the quality was not even close. So I would definitely get these outlines, three subjects for the baby bar. And if you want to continue using that company for your second year, third year, fourth year, it's definitely worth having it rather than not having it. But for me, I was able to find a better outline for free online. You just have to do a lot of research. So now for my community property class, I'm using a free outline I found online, and it's the best outline I've seen for that subject. So if you're looking to get an outline for your baby bar exam prep, these are a must. And I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to literally memorize all these black letter laws, like word for word. And because if you don't memorize them, you can't write. So these are excellent. So get these. And finally, I kind of talked about this, but Gilbert. So this is for torts. It's really thick. This is for criminal law, and it's pretty thick. This is for contracts. It's pretty thick too. So contracts, it's like what? Like almost 350 pages. Criminal law looks about the same. For torts, 540 pages almost. So why I recommend you to get Gilbert is because if you don't understand a certain concept, all you need to do is go to Gilbert, look under the index section at the end of the book, and find that particular keyword. Go to that corresponding page, and it'll explain the law to you better than any other horn books or any other outlines out there, because outlines are meant to summarize and they make everything short. But one thing about Gilbert is that they make everything very easy to understand, even though it's a long form of explanation. If you don't understand something, that is the go-to horn book that you should definitely get, because it'll have the answers to a lot of your questions. Like some things that your professor or your baby bar is studying, you just won't understand. It'll be really hard. And I've had many of those instances. And every time I've had difficulty understanding concepts, I just looked at Gilbert, and they would explain it to me in ways that was very easy to understand. And every Gilbert has like these practice questions, and to be honest, Gilbert practice questions are much harder. But I did practically all of them to prepare for the baby bar, because I just wanted to challenge myself with harder questions, so that 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 when I actually took the real baby bar exam, that it wouldn't be so hard, because I've already done so many harder questions. So it makes sense that if you practice with harder questions, when it comes down to your testing day, all the questions are gonna seem much easier, and that's the effect that I was trying to get out of just trying and practicing with all these questions given to Gilbert. So I think I may have like a couple more outlines, a couple more horn books. The one that comes to my mind is the Criminal Law Horn Book by Jeff Adaki. And Jeff was a public defendant in San Francisco, but he also taught Barbary and wrote many books regarding criminal law concepts, and just a lot of questions that'll help you pass the baby bar and the bar exam. And I worked with his criminal law horn book, and I've done every single question. And again, those questions are pretty hard. The way he wrote it is just much harder than what you'll have to eventually take for your baby bar, but it definitely helped. I wouldn't say that they're the best questions, and unfortunately he's no longer around us, and I know that he was a great public defender. And me being an Asian person, just seeing another Asian, Japanese, kicking ass and doing well was really good to see. But kind of going off of tangent, but when you're a public defender, you're making enemies, and your enemies are not commoners. Your enemies will be the police, and this country is very heavy on policing power, and they have a lot of political power, and different groups that just wield a lot of power, and he had to always fight them. And it's not an easy job going against a huge group of people who are who have a lot of influence and political power. But that was his job, and he was a great public defender, but also a great teacher. And if you really want to get into criminal law and study more, and if you can't find any other horn books or question books, I would definitely recommend Jeff Adaki's criminal law question books, because they're harder, so it'll challenge you. Again, the way he worded things, I still remember they were a little bit off sometimes, but because they're so much harder, when you take the baby bar exam, the exam will become much more easier. So it's been 45 minutes now, and I've talked about a lot of commercial outlines. And to conclude, what I've said in the beginning was what may work for me may not work for you. So it's vital that you try different outlines. You try different commercial outlines, see what works for you, see what doesn't, and try to find the one that works for you. And I make a lot of basketball analogies, but if you want to become a good dribbler, you always carry your ball with you everywhere you go. And I've been trying to use that same analogy into my law studies now, and I try to carry a short version outline for a particular class I'm in, and I go everywhere with it. And if I have like 5 seconds, I would look at it and try to memorize, and I just try to make it part of my life. And people may think like, why is he carrying around a bunch of papers? What is he doing? But I'm at an age where I don't really care about what people think of me anymore. Been through a lot in life. Those things really don't matter. So as long as I can improve on knowing the black letter law, then I think that I would continue doing, or dribbling everywhere with a basketball. In this case, I would be memorizing everywhere I go with a couple of pages of my outline and try to really make it mine. So with that, I hope this video was helpful to you, and I hope that you can eventually find something that works for you, and that's the most important thing. Make sure you find something that works for you. Make sure the wording of these commercial outlines is what you can work with, because I don't think it's a good idea to go from an outline to an outline unless you're just trying to understand something, but you just don't get it by looking at outline number 1. Then you may want to go to outline number 2 and 3 and 4. But you try to work with a single outline and try to memorize them all, because if you don't know the law, then you're gonna get stuck while writing. And analysis to me now is easy, but without writing the elements of the law, you can't analyze anything. So it's the first thing to do is always know the law and make sure to know every element, so your writing can be easy and for law school, and also for your baby bar. Once you know all the law front and back, then all these MBE questions will be a breeze for you. All right. So with that, again, I hope this video was very good for you, helpful, brought you a lot of value, and hopefully in my next video I can reveal some more valuable information that'll help you pass the baby bar. And for some of you, if you've been struggling with your first year of law studies, help you to propel you forward and be, top 10%, 5%, 1% in your classroom. And I thank you so much for listening to me, and I'll talk to you guys soon.